Ancient Greece and Rome, a timeline and lesson by Jack Walsh. Formation of Greece. The area of Greece has almost always been populated by the natives called the Minoans, who lived on the island now known as Crete, and the Mysians, who lived in the Greek mainland. Because the Minoans were on an island, they had limited space and resources. The Mysians saw them as weak, so they attacked many times and resulted in the destruction of the Minoan culture and civilization, and the Mysians formed Greece. The Wars and Dark Ages. The Trojan War took place around 1200 BC. The war resulted in the destruction of Troy. From the war came the book called the Iliad, which told the story of the Odyssey, the story of Odysseus and his long journey home. After the war, barbaric tribes from the north overran Greece, and then later the Dorians and the Ionians occupied much of Greece. Greece would not fully recover from this until the Golden Age of Athens. This time was known as the Greek Dark Ages. Development of Greek culture. In 1850 BC, the first Greek alphabet was created. This was very important for everything that followed in Greece, including some of the world's greatest thinkers. 1776, the first Olympic Games were staged. Some of the events included wrestling, jumping, javelin, and chariot racing. The games became a center point for Greek culture, as it was a huge event that happened only once every 4 years. The tradition has continued and became a worldwide event. The Messian War took place between Messenia and Sparta. The war lasted 20 years and ended with the Spartan victory. The surviving Messians either left or became slaves. Because of the war, people had to invent new things to win. Classical Greece. Classical Greece began around 100 years after the Greek currency came about in 600 BC. It was a time of maturity within the states. It was led by two city-states, Spartans and Athens. Although these two city-states were almost complete opposite, they both had many cultural and military achievements. Through a series of reforms and alliances, they united most of the Greek area. Democracy was established in Athens by Cleisthenes. This idea let every man vote on the decisions affecting the country. Democracy will later form the United States of the government. Greek academics. The Greeks had many great philosophers that changed the way a lot of the world thought. Socrates was a poor man that questions everything. Plato was taught by Socrates, and he formed the academy. The best student of Plato was Aristotle. He would go on to teach Alexander the Great and create his own school, the Lyceum. By teaching Alexander the Great, he indirectly started the Hellenistic period in Greek history. The Hellenistic period. This was the time when Alexander the Great expanded Greece's boundaries from the Mediterranean to southern Asia. He died 13 years after taking control, but he was very efficient in accomplishing his goal, which was to make everyone speak Greek. At the end of the classical period, all the city-states were disorganized and weak. This made it easier for a small city-state to rise up, and in this case it was Macedonia. At the time, Macedonia was under the rule of Philip II. He had made many military advances, like the long-range catapult, and a new kind of weapon called the Saracius, which was a 16-foot-long spear. This was the average between the spears, and they could range anywhere from 15 to 22 feet long. This new weapon was used in the infantry formation known as the phalanx. This formation was where there would be a front row of people armed with sarruses, sticking them straight out, and more rows behind them, sticking them in between the other members of the formation. This would make a great wall of spears, and it was almost completely impenetrable. After this period, the Greek Empire fell apart and was conquered by the Roman Empire. Alexander the Great was really good at conquering new places, but he was very bad at creating new empires. This made it so that he had a lot but really terrible cities, and it was much easier for the Romans to conquer them. And this is a crash course on Alexander the Great and what exactly he did. I won't be playing it because it's 11 minutes, but the link will be in the description. Formation of Rome. Around 732 BC, Rome began its building up to a great and powerful empire. According to Roman mythology, Rome was founded when two young brothers, Romulus and Remus, were raised by wolves, and they created Rome. The story goes that two brothers who were both sons of Mars, or Ares in Greek, who's the god of war, were washed into the river Tiber in a basket. They were snagged on a branch, and they were raised by farmers. They were challenged to see who could build. They challenged each other to see who could build the best city, and it ended up as Romulus built the best city, and Remus died after he tried to climb the wall of Romulus's city. Other sources say that Rome was created by a group of people who escaped the Battle of Troy and landed at the mouth of the river Tiber. Over the next 200 years, Rome would expand to form the Roman Republic in 509 BC. Rome continues to grow and expand their land. Rome develops the Saga Genesis. What it means by this is it's more like the saga, but you would most likely say Sega if you were in Italy. And this is the beginning 4 parts. I won't go into all of them, I'll go into one, and the other 3 are unknown to anybody and you'll never find it anywhere. The first set of laws in Rome were the Law of the 12 Tables. It provided written law for Rome. The 12 Tables limited the power of patricians or rich landowners. More laws were made, so the 12 Tables weren't used, but they were never actually abolished. In 390 BC, Rome was sacked by the Gauls, and the Gaul is the area just above the Italian peninsula. They rebuilt under the power of the military hero Camillus. The Romans eventually took over the entire Italian peninsula by 264 BC. The Romans fought a series of wars with Carthage called the Punic Wars. The war ended with the slavery of the Romans, and the remaining people were sold into slavery. Roman expansion and culture. Rome's first literature appeared around 240 BC. They had translated the Greek into Latin. After the Punic Wars, Carthage became a part of the Roman Empire. At the time, Rome was not an empire, but it would continue to grow. Because Carthage was located in North Africa, they started spreading their influence throughout the land. The Romans began to copy most of Greece's art and style, but they still had a unique spin on things. For example, the Greeks typically used marble for their buildings, while the Romans used concrete. The Greeks also only really made ideal bodies, so it would only be the models who were portrayed, and it made it look unrealistic and but at the same time beautiful. The Romans believed in a realistic kind of art that showed what people really looked like, which is kind of what people are doing today and what they did in the Renaissance. The end of the Roman Republic. When Rome was ending its time as a republic, it started to crumble due to its size. The Roman Republic reached from Spain to Asia while staying out of Africa mostly. Because of how long it was difficult to control everything, because it stretched the resources so thin. While the Republic fell, it was becoming a time of war. Rome saw many new consuls protecting their land from attackers, and a consul is a person who's in charge of the military in a new place, kind of like a colony where the colony's run by an outside source, but whoever is that got a little bit out of control. So what it essentially is a consul is the person that controls the military in a colony. So the general, I guess, that would be in a colony is considered the consul. It's not used very much, but that's what it really is. While the Republic fell, it was around 82 BC, a new consul, Pompey, waged a successful war against the pirates in the Mediterranean. The Republic fell and an empire took its place. This new empire would be much larger and stronger than the Republic ever was. Caesar was a young aristocrat with political ambitions. He was liked by the people, but he still had large debts. Crassus, who was also into politics, realized that he was not very popular, but he still wanted power. He backed Caesar by paying his debts. By using Crassus's money, Caesar became very powerful and was known far and wide for his reforms. His plans weren't clear, but people close to him knew that he wanted power. Caesar, Crassus, and Pompey came together to form the first triumvirate. With Caesar's popularity, Crassus's money, and Pompey's glory, the three were almost unbeatable. The first triumvirate fell after the death of Crassus and Caesar's daughter Julia. Crassus was killed during a battle against Parthia, which is present-day Iran. The politics were in disorder, and Pompey stepped in as consul. Caesar's wealth and glory was becoming equal with Pompey. Pompey met with his friends in the Senate to undermine Caesar. Caesar was still looking for power, and so he and one of his legions crossed the Rubicon River and invaded Rome from his province in Gaul. Caesar's troops took Rome, and he became the dictator for the rest of his time. Caesar took control of the entire Mediterranean area. Caesar was killed less than a year after he took power. He was killed in an attack led by former Republic nobles Marcus Junius Brutus and Gaius Cassius. From Caesar to Augustus. Mark Antony and Octavian, Caesar's great-nephew, joined forces to crush Brutus and Cassius. They formed the Second Triumvirate by dividing power with ex-consul Lepidus. The tensions rising, the triumvirate broke, leading to war. In 5 years, Octavian triumphed over Mark Antony's forces in Egypt. Antony was allied with Queen Cleopatra in Egypt. In the Battle of Actium, Antony and Cleopatra killed themselves. Octavian became the sole leader of the entirety of the Roman Republic. To avoid ending up like Caesar, Octavian made sure that the people supported him by restoring political institutions while still retaining power. Octavian took the title of Augustus and became Rome's first emperor. The Pax Romana. The Pax Romana was the time of prosperity and peace that lasted for 2 years. Although I said that this was a time of peace, it was only for the people in Rome at the time. The Roman army was still massive, and they led more conquests. Because of how successful Augustus was, at his death the people of Rome made him a god. This started a long-running tradition of deification for popular emperors. After Augustus came 4 other emperors: the unpopular Tiberius, the bloodthirsty Caligula, Claudius, who conquered Britain, and the line ends with Nero, who drained the treasury and then later killed himself. After the age of emperors, several emperors took power after the Augustus dynasty. After the emperors, Titus was very well respected after the way he recovered from the eruption of Mount Vesuvius. Nero was elected by Senate to take rule. He was in power for 2 years, but he started another golden age in Rome. After Nerva came Trajan, Hadrian, Antonius Pius, Marcus Aurelius, all of which took the throne peacefully. They were chosen by adoption rather than hereditary. Trajan expanded the borders to the greatest extent. Hadrian made the front stronger and made more reforms. Antonius kept his peace, so he tried to make it an all-peaceful time with no wars. And Marcus's reign was filled with war from the tribes in Parthia and Armenia. He gave power to his 19-year-old son Commodus, and that made it so that it ended giving the power by adoption and went back to the hereditary, so it was all by family. The decline of Rome. The Golden Age ended when Commodus was killed by his ministers. This sparked a civil war that ended in the victory of Lucius Septimus Severus. After Lucius, Rome After Lucius, After Lucius, Rome was near constant conflict. 22 emperors took the throne, and most were killed by the same people that brought them to power. That was usually the soldiers who didn't like what the emperors were saying. While that happened, more threats from the outside plagued the empire. Continued attacks from the Germans and the Parthians, and along with more raids from the Goths over the Aegean Sea. Diocletian brought a short period of peace, but only by giving up the unity of the empire. He split the power between 4 people, Diocletian and Galerius in the east, and Maximian and Constantius in the west. Diocletian and Maximum retired, crippling the empire. Constantius' son, Constantine, came to power and moved the capital of the Roman Empire to Byzantium and renamed it to Constantinople. He also made the official religion Christianity. The fall of the Roman Empire. Constantine ruled for 30 years and resolved nothing but a weak unity of the empire. After his death, the empire would soon be divided again. The Eastern Empire would become the Byzantine Empire. The Western Empire was slowly dying due to internal conflicts and constant threats, mainly from the Germans. They had pushed their way past the enemy's border, and they were already setting up small cities and towns. The empire lost lots of money due to the constant war. Rome finally collapsed, losing its provinces one by one, starting with Britain in 410, North Africa and Spain in 430. Attila and his Huns invaded Italy in 450. In September 476, Octavar, a Germanic prince, won control of Rome. This ended the long and successful history of the Roman Empire. I hope you enjoyed.